Guys, welcome back. Workplay Obsession, Life and Jiu Jitsu. So as you can see, I'm somewhere different today. I'm just outside of Wells, Nevada. I'm at the Torn tactical site, Team Torn. Guys, I've been here for, 3 days now. We're out here for the Torn Warriors 501c fundraiser event. So a great weekend of shooting, driving, off-roading, whatever you want to call it, and bonding with some current active duty and former retired Marines, Army guys, everything. So pardon our appearance today. As you can see, I look kind of crappy. We literally just got done shooting. We just got done shooting and over an elevation gain of a couple thousand feet. Some pretty hard targets to hit. So yeah, so first of all, guys, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for following the show. It's been about a month since our last show. It's kind of what I'm shooting for right now, about every month, as I can get more people to come on and talk about community of inclusivity and familiarity to combat post-traumatic stress, anxiety, depression, whatever it is, guys. Even if survival's guilt is a real thing, right? So yes, we have that too. Also, of course, something near and dear to me to talk about choosing safety, guys, and being our own bodyguard. Shout out to Spear System and Coach Tony Blauer. Be your own bodyguard is near and dear to my heart as well. So you may be asking, who the hell is this other person sitting over here? So guys, I am fortunate enough, one, that I actually met Kelsey this weekend, which is dope, and that she's like, hell yeah, I'll sit down and I'll talk to you on the podcast. So I have Kelsey, is it Desantis? Is that how you pronounce it? Desantis here, former Marine, MMA fighter, active MMA fighter, currently fighting at American Top Team. So we're going to get to that later, and a pretty good shooter. So we're having fun, we're shooting, we're riding, eating a shit ton of food. I think, well, I'm eating a shit ton of food. I don't know about you. And now we're doing this. So I'm going to be quiet now, and I'm going to let Kelsey tell you guys a little bit about her background, where she's from, how she ended up in the Corps, her time in the Corps, how she landed in MMA. I know you were teaching in their martial arts program as well in the Marine Corps, and then we'll go on from there. So I'm going to turn it over to you right now while I drink water.
Yeah. So first, let me just say it's such a privilege to be here at Torn Warriors facility, and to be getting to know everyone here. Mr. Curtis and Miss Catherine are incredible, and I admire this program. And it's been so wonderful to meet you and all.
No, thank you, I appreciate it.
Wonderful individuals here.
Yeah, some pretty cool people.
Yeah,
it's great.
Yeah. So yeah, and all right. Well, I grew up in Southern California. I'm gonna kind of make it short.
Okay. No, it's no problem.
Yeah. So I grew up in Southern California. I grew up kind of hard, me and my brother. Okay. It was me and my brother. My mom worked quite a lot. And,
were you younger or older?
He's a year older.
Okay, he's a year older. Okay.
Yeah, he takes full like credit for anything I do with MMA. Okay. He's like, yeah, that's because I was beating your.
I made you tough, right? I mean, yeah, I made you tough.
Yeah. So he's great. I love my brother. He'd help me be tough. He was also a Marine. And so was my uncle, who's
so
like,
it runs in the family.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's
awesome. Well, thank you for your service too.
Thank you for your service.
No, thank you.
I always say like thank you for your support. Yeah. And you know, it's a nice thing. It's really wonderful to be a part of this community.
No, absolutely.
So,
yep.
So yeah. So I grew up in Southern California. I decided to join the Marine Corps when I was 18, and I spent 5 years, which isn't a whole lot of time compared to a lot of individuals who give their whole life. Yep. And I had a really interesting Marine Corps career. My original MOS was military police. Okay. And I kind of didn't want to do that because the martial arts thing. I was a Muay Thai fighter before I joined the Marine Corps. And I had the opportunity to go pro right before I left for Marine Corps boot camp. And I was like, you know what, if I don't go now, I'm not going to go. So, but it really helped me in the Marine Corps. Like being a martial artist beforehand, like made me a better Marine, and being a Marine made me a better martial artist. Now, did you, with your, I'll say toughness because, you know, the background and
even just fighting with your brother, but did you find that made you someone that the other women Marines kind of looked up to or sought advice from, like during boot camp and once you were done, they're like, hey, she's kind of, I'll use the word tough, but she has her confidence about her, so let me ask her, or let me seek out some wisdom from her.
Yeah, and that's so nice that you say that. I think that I think you can learn something from anybody.
Right.
And so I think it was great to be among those women, and I learned a lot from them, and I think it was really cool. I graduated as honor graduate.
Oh, congratulations. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, so that was cool, and it was a really interesting perspective, joining the Marine Corps. And I went from there. I went to military police school and did some combatives. I got slain, which was really cool.
Yeah, I remember you mentioning that last night. I did pick that up. Yep.
And that was a huge development for me, an evolution. Being able to work with dogs as your partner, you know what I mean? There's something really special about that.
You developed that bond, right?
Yeah. So I did that, and then I got selected to work at HMX-1, which is the also known as the President's Unit, Marine One, and that was really interesting. Very, very cool. I worked for the end of Bush and the beginning of Obama's career.
So, since we like to talk about combatives and we like to talk about martial arts, did your training change, or was there an increase in personal security detail type of work? Like, hey, all right, you're now protecting the President of the United States. You're going to do more combatives, or you're going to do more hand-to-hand. You're going to do more shooting. Was there an increase in that, or was that just the regular level that you had as a Marine?
That's a great question.
And if it's secret, you can't. If it's top secret, you can't give that information out.
No. Listen, we did train. Training. I mean, especially for the Marine Corps, is it's something that we take very serious. And so we did train. We did a lot of different drills with we would carry regularly, which were really interesting. And it's always a thinking man's game, you know. And it did help me, in terms of martial arts and everything like that. Do I think there could be more training? Yes.
Yeah. So there was no noticeable increase on, hey, now you're PSD, you are doing an extra 2 hours a day of moving, this guy around and all this other stuff.
Actually, because we were our division was a part of the security forces. Yeah, we would work our shifts and we would PT together. Okay. You know what I mean? We made it a point, and Marines take it serious. Especially, you have to be able to physically perform or be able to help, change a situation if something goes wrong. So that was kind of the goal. Yeah, and it was that was another evolution for me in terms of learning and
So let's fast forward. Let's fast forward to mixed martial arts.
Sure.
Okay. How did you make that transition from leaving the Marine Corps, and then I'm assuming that was your full-time job, if not having another job and being a mixed martial artist?
Yes, and that's another good point. It's always been like that. Especially with martial arts. The thing with martial arts is that it's tough, you know what I mean? For the most part, it's a struggle. But finding the right environment is hugely important, because it doesn't mean that you have to be going 100 all the time. You have to be thinking and learning and flowing, and you also have to make time to do that. You know what I mean? So if it was working all day and then saying I'm going to sacrifice dinner on the way to training, that's what I'm doing.
Right.
That's a commitment that you make to yourself, and I think it's a really interesting thing with your training partners and your camp and everything like that, which we're probably going to talk about.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
But yeah, it's a beautiful thing. I kind of go off in different directions sometimes.
So you're, and we'll kind of catch up to this, but you're at American top team now.
Yeah.
How many teams is that down the line for you? Were you at one team and then you trained there for a long time and then you transitioned, or was it? How did that go? Was it an up and down thing?
Yeah, sure. So when I started Muay Thai, I started at actually a little gym in my hometown, and I remember I got beat up all day, every day, and I was just addicted. And then I fought in my first fight, and I got my face beaten. I thought for sure I wasn't going to come out the second round. Okay. And my corner was go, and I realized then after that I wanted to train harder and change that. And it was funny because my uncle, who's my dad, he's also a Marine, he was listen, you could do volleyball. You play volleyball, you know
You've
what I
got
mean?
all
Like,
these options.
yeah, like softball,
yeah.
you played softball, like maybe this isn't for you. And, you know, like I definitely gave that some thought, and that's always been something in your brain. But
So we've seen that before, right? So actually, most recently you had Claudia Gadela. I don't know how you pronounce her last name, but anyway, she just made a transition from, she was training out in Nevada, and then she transitioned to New Jersey. I think she's training with Frankie Edgar a little bit and some guys up there, right? So sometimes that's what you see. You're with a place and you have to make a transition for whatever reason. And when we look at it in jiu-jitsu, for the longest time you had, oh, that guy's a crionche, he's a crionche. He left the gym and went to another gym. And it's like, hey, sometimes you have to make a change. You know, and that's what's going to benefit you. You know, and I like to be able to bring that up because jiu-jitsu is not like it used to be, right? In the YouTube age and the BJJ video library. Shout out to Trap BJJ, BJJ library online, guys. Jiu-jitsu black belts from all across the world. I work closely with those guys, so yeah, shout out to Trap BJJ. But that's a great example of, hey, the material is everywhere now. Nothing's a secret. So find the school that fits you, both technically and you can say emotionally. Even the people that are there, you have to be in the right place.
Yes.
So that's why I ask you that. Sorry, I went off on my soapbox.
No, that was beautiful. Well said. That was so beautiful, and that's so important because one thing that I tell people ask me all the time, like, which is really exciting to me. People ask me about martial arts and starting martial arts, and I tell everyone that, you know, especially if your kids are at all interested in doing jiu-jitsu or something like that, like get them involved, but go to one place and say, hey, this is the place.
Good point.
Like do some research and be like, hey, what's around me? What kind of, you know, test out different environments.
No, that's a great point.
And find what makes a good match for you. And a lot of things with martial arts is some people think it's always like, and, you know, kill or be killed, which in some contexts, yes, that's the idea toward the extreme level. Now, in the beginning stages, like there's a lot, and even still at the higher level, there's a lot of flow and movement and things like that go into that.
Yeah, so. I think I read an article. It might have been Henner Gracie or Huron, one or the other, but they get a lot of guys that are over 40, you know, which is my crowd. You don't know anything about over 40 yet. You've got a long ways to go, but that's my crowd. And he says, hey, they have people that come in to the gym who were going to quit jiu-jitsu because they went to a gym, go, and on their 45-year-old body they couldn't take it. Then they went to, and I'm not saying that the Gracie system is the one to go to. I'm not like advertising for them. I'm just basically saying exactly what you said is, hey, find the right fit.
Absolutely.
You know, if your goal is not to be the world's champion, you know, you're training because you want to stay in shape or you want the cognitive challenge of playing, you know, human chess, then find the place that allows you to do that.
Yes.
And I think that a lot of people feel like if they haven't done their research initially and then they end up in the wrong place, they can't leave.
Right.
And that's just not true.
No.
So.
Yeah, you can always ask. Like a lot of gyms I went to, like I trained at Lloyd Irvin's gym, and before I went down to American Top Team.
Yeah.
And
shout out to Team Lloyd Irvin, Camp Springs, Maryland.
Yeah.
Jiu-Jitsu hotspot, Maryland.
They have some really interesting fighters that have came out of there, and amazing talent too. I mean, obviously I'm repping American Top Team to
absolutely.
the death. You know what I mean? Like, and we'll talk about that.
And we're going to talk about that, yeah.
But yeah, no, I appreciate, especially other gyms being able to like if you can cross train, or if you have to, you know, if you're moving, whatever, like, or if you just don't want to train somewhere anymore, you know, because the thing is like, I love good training partners, and that's what I feel like I am to Amanda. You know, when I need to be, is that's the being a good training partner is being an asset. You know, and there's nothing wrong with being like, look, I'd like to go slow with you today and just like kind of figure out how this works. You know what I mean? Or like, can you teach me something? But a lot of people let their ego get involved, and they're like, oh, I'm just gonna go 100%, and it's like, listen, like slow it down, right? Like that's a really
so let's talk about that, since we just hit on your training at American Top Team. So we kind of talked about it a little bit prior to starting the podcast. I was like, hey, what is it about American Top Team that makes them different? And if that difference makes them great, or what is it that makes them greater, or whatever can kind of encapsulate that thought that, hey, people want to go there, and they produce top talent. I mean, you mentioned it, people don't know it, that sparring partner, training partner for Amanda Nunes for her last couple fights, and that's, you know, the current world champion. So that is talent. We saw one of your teammates fight last night. We watched the UFC event last night, and he won his fight. So it's like, and everybody that follows mixed martial arts have heard of American Top Team. So what makes them different? What makes them special?
Yeah, so for me, I think something extremely special is that there's a culture there. And
there's that word, right? That word culture, man. Like, it's really big in the military right now, right? Everybody's throwing around that word culture, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But great that you brought that up. I'm sorry to cut you off there.
No, of course. There's a culture there, and it's undeniable, and it's incredible to be a part of. And it's evolved. It's constantly tested. It's constantly pressurized. It's constantly adapting and overcoming, as we say, right, as Marines. It's a beautiful thing, and you have the best coaches for each discipline. I mean, you have some of the best, I'm not going to say, some of the very best in the world that have came together. So when that synchronicity happens, and there's this flow and this energy, it's hard to put into words, but you can't deny it, and you feel it. And one of the coolest things about training there is, when we warm up on, like, say, a Monday for wrestling class, which is a really, hard grind class.
I bet.
And I love it, and it's fun, and it really pushes the boundaries always. That's how they, but also it's very technical. It's also very, it brings out a fighter IQ. You know what I mean? Like, it's designed to develop, and it does. And
so is that, we talked about this the other day, right? And this will kind of bring you into what my question is going to be. We talked about green days, red days, right? Where our green day is our day where it's more flowing, more technical. It's going to be a higher load cognitively because it's more technique, but it's going to be a lower load on stress, right? And on the emotional regulation. So those are your green days. Whereas red days, we flip it, and it's high intensity, a lot of sparring, not a lot of technique. Right, a lot of explosiveness, a lot of input from coaches amping up. So that's your red days. So do you guys do something like that there?
Oh yeah, totally. But the only difference in what you all said was correct, besides with technique, is everything there.
Okay.
Even like the training that, if you don't follow Phil Daru, you need to start following him if you're at all into strength and conditioning or physical fitness or form. Amazing. And him and all his instructors that he's got there, I'm
going to pick something up. Excuse me, I dropped it on the floor. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and so they're amazing, he's amazing. His, and he puts, everything is technique. It's all explosive. But those are even like, it's like the red-green day thing that you're saying. So, like Monday would be wrestling, and then you have like a strength and conditioning time, and you cut out these times. And what it does is it develops everything all at the same time. And I truly believe that what you're saying is so important, because a lot of people leave out mobility, and with injuries.
Hey. I know she's talking to me here, but you guys can take that to heart. Mobility is very important.
It almost makes me sad, because I've done it myself. I've neglected myself.
Yeah.
And
well, add on 12 years or so, and then you'll really understand that mobility is critical.
Yeah, and it's never too late to start. Like, a lot of people, that's another thing. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, like, I'm too old or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, you're 40, like, so sometimes now is better than never, right?
Yeah. So I add that in there, I add that in under the, and I'm going to get into this later, but we talk about trust the process, right? From The Brain Always Wins by Dr. John Sullivan. And part of the process, the P, is physical activity. So I talk to people about yoga being one of those physical activities, and not to go on a tangent right now, because I'll bring it up later, but let me dive into something that you mentioned, which was culture. Right, and I kind of laughed at it because we do talk about it a lot right now. But when I look at culture, I say, hey, people are often looking for people who fit, quote unquote, fit their culture, right? And my fear with that is when you're specifically looking for people who fit your culture, you tend to develop a culture that is all the same, where everybody's the same, and you have this one fit. There's a lot of confirmation bias within the group because we all think alike. What I tell people to do is to look for cultural contribution. So that person may be slightly off of what your culture is, but because they have that difference of opinion or difference of upbringing, background, whatever it is, they contribute to the culture.
That's very.
And now your culture grows. Not only does it grow, but it doesn't remain stagnant, which is kind of saying the same thing in different words. But there you have the ability to maintain growth, right? And then it's exactly like you said, you bring in someone whose skill set's a little different, and now they add that to the team.
Sure.
And now everyone on the team gets a little better. We in the military have a very difficult time of bringing in people that don't look exactly the way we want them to.
Sure.
Exactly like me. So cultural contribution.
Can I interrupt you?
Absolutely.
Okay, because I love that concept. I
Yeah.
think that's wonderful. Me and one of my friends who's about to retire as a lieutenant colonel out of the Army, actually, Green Beret type.
Go Army. Be
Yeah,
Navy.
he just got his
Always.
doctorate, and yeah, shout out. Somebody's got to represent. So, so he just got his doctorate, and we're working on a project. Research I did in my master's degree, and it ties in identity. And I think that ties in a lot to what you're saying.
Yes,
because
you have to have an identity. Yeah,
well,
absolutely.
you have to have identity, and you also have to be very flexible with your identity. Like, in my opinion, because it's easy for us to hold on to these social constructs of who we are and like what we're doing. And when you leave the military or something like that, you know, that changes. Or when you become a mom or when you become a dad, you know, that changes. Like, identity changes. And so adaptation is really interesting. And I think that ties into martial arts too, is because you kind of, it's interesting, all these life, like, things that come into play, you know, the synchronicity there with Jiu Jitsu and life is.
So let me, one last thing for you with regards to, specifically with regards to fighting or with mixed martial arts, and we can bring it back in however we want, but a specific question for you. I'm interested to know your stance on the gender issues that we have within sports in general, and also in mixed martial arts with, you know, male to female conversion, females.
Yeah.
I don't know if wherever that falls.
Sure.
And the reason why I ask is because I was digging on your background, and I saw at one point you were scheduled to fight Fallon Fox. So whether it was scheduled or not, but
yes,
I'm interested to hear your perspective on that.
Right. Actually, wouldn't have. I would have been set to, and I would have declined. And here's the reason: is because first of all, I don't care.
Wouldn't have. I love that.
Yeah. I don't care who you are, what you look like, who you want to be, what you want to be. You know, like, if you're gay, if you're not, if you're straight, if you're whatever you want to identify as. Has none of my business. I support you and who you want to be, and would never, you know, criticize someone for that. But when it starts, the thing is when it starts to like encroach on women, adult women being competitive against one another, that's where I draw the line, and I have a disagreement. Not because most of us women have fought men and we train and fight in the gym, you know what I mean? It's,
Yeah, no, I got you.
that's a commonality. But it's because we've worked for our spot like long, you know, before Ronda Rousey, and I mean, even Ronda Rousey's a huge part of that, and Liz Carmouche, who is fighting again soon, and you have this, I mean, Nina Ansaroff goes way back, Amanda Nunes. Like, it's not like they came out of nowhere. You know what I mean? There's a historical, like, progress that happened with that, and women fought for their right, so to speak, to fight one another. And so, to me, that should be honored.
Yeah.
That should be honored. Why? For quite a few different reasons. First of all, it's a competitive sport. There's a referee to save you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a different mindset. It's if you have to fight a man in real life, you have to fight a man in real life. But why, if we have the option to fight in our division?
Right. There's a rule set. There are conditions. No, absolutely. Yeah.
But it's really interesting because shout out to Ashley Evans Smith, who won that fight against Fallon Fox, and she's an amazing fighter. Started as a great wrestler, and you know, so I personally wouldn't have fought her. I just it went, you know, and I didn't get the opportunity because I lost that fight by decision, whether it was a bad decision or not.
Right.
I didn't get lined up to fight her, but I thought it was really interesting, the whole concept, because I would have declined, and I would have politely declined.
No, I just saw it. I thought it was interesting. I was like, I have the opportunity to ask, so I'm going to ask away.
I've knocked out men in the Marine Corps. I've knocked out men before in the gym. It's not like, but it's, and I believe in like how jiu-jitsu kids, they go against each other. I think that's great as a child. You learn that adversity, you know, but there's also, you're not smashing someone's face in with bigger elbows and bigger knees. Women and men's bodies are different. I don't know if we know that by now, but like, you know, they're different and they develop differently. And so that's a contributing factor too. We're talking about a combat sport. Like, these are used to break your face and body open along with these, and everything's used for combat, you know. So it's
no,
like,
we saw it last night. I mean, there was pretty good damage done in all the fights, and it was, you know, knees, elbows, a lot of vicious striking going on. So we see it. So let me ask you this: what's next for you in the mixed martial arts arena?
You know, a lot of people have been asking me, and I've given it a lot of thought.
Man, I thought I was original.
Well, no, and I appreciate someone even asking. It's nice that someone would even care to ask, and I love the sport. I love martial arts, and I'm privileged. I get to train an American top team.
Yeah.
I get to train with them, and to me, it's like modern day gladiator training. Like when they warm up on the mats, you hear different from all over the world. You hear different dialects and different people from all over the world, and they come to one place. And you know, it's an incredible thing. So for me, I just want to keep training. Like I've had that spark. You know, sometimes in life, you know how identity changes and stuff like that. Sometimes your passion or something will change. Well, right before I became a mom, I was thinking I was just going to do jiu-jitsu, you know, from now on, and I would train on my own, but I didn't start putting it all back together. And I think it's just interesting, because then I started to, but it's just interesting to adapt, you know, and to be able to transition, so to speak. I know that went in like a different direction.
No, I completely understand. It's like you said, you'll find where you want to be, right? And that's what counts, right? And that's what really matters.
Sure.
So,
but I would love to, honestly. Like I kind of visualize it. Sorry to interrupt you. I kind of like.
No, you're good.
For me, it's always been a dream, and you know, sometimes when something comes back, and I've had a lot of intellectual conversations with myself on these topics and stuff. And first of all, you know, martial arts is very near and dear to my heart, but it's not something that you don't fight just to fight, you know, like. And so I've asked all these like questions in my mind, like why I do this or blah blah blah. And so I think I have a better perspective on that now at 30 than I did when I was 23 and getting out of the Marine Corps, you know. So different things come into your life, and opportunity, like if you have some opportunity that someone would never, you know, maybe not get, and it's something that you're passionate about, it's only up to us to step into that, you know what I mean, individually. Like it's an individual thing. It's not like I'm gonna, you know, pull you. I mean, it's good to have good friends and good company who can encourage you to do what you're supposed to do or that you want to do, but you know, stepping into opportunity is kind of like a big thing for me. I'm like, I feel almost guilty if I don't.
So let's talk about what we've kind of been kicking around the last couple days. You guys have heard me mention a lot the process, right? So I have here the brain always wins, Dr. John Sullivan and Chris Parker. So you guys, you can follow them on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, whatever. I don't know Dr. Sullivan. He's probably never heard this podcast, or probably has never heard me reference him as well. But I do reference the process, which he's written about, and I've kind of stolen this because I think it encapsulates everything I'm trying to do. So you guys can now hear the gunfire probably going off. The range is hot again, so those guys are getting after it. Actually, it's been hot. They just haven't been on this location. But let me take a quick pause. All right, guys, welcome back. So we took a short little break here, guys. Probably not noticeable to you guys, but we had some more shooting going on. Guys are still on the range trying to beat our time, which they're not going to do. So they can stay out there a little bit longer. We figure we wrap up. So before I went, guys, I was talking about the brain always wins, right? Within the book, they have the process. And if you guys follow Workplay Obsession on Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, YouTube, and workplayobsession.com, follow all those things. But you'll often hear me talk about the process, right? Trust the process. Physical activity, rest and recovery, optimal nutrition, cognitive training, emotional regulation, social interaction, and finally synergy, guys. Synergy to me is the most important. It's taking all of those elements of the process and integrating them all in life. When you do that, it's a great system for just for living, right? And for brain health. So I love to say trust the process. And once again, it's not mine, but I like to preach about. After that long kind of soapbox-ish thing, but I really wanted to get that out, I wanted to talk to you about some of the things we talked about as far as what you're really interested in doing with in the community, and especially with Jiu Jitsu because of your passion for that. So I didn't really ask you a question. I kind of left it really open.
Yeah.
But if there's anything that you want to hit on as far as going forward.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that I would be fortunate to compete again and take that opportunity. So if all works according to plan, maybe that'll happen, and we'll see. But either way, I know that I don't need that, just that, you know what I mean? I have other things that satisfy my purpose and things that I'm doing. So yeah, like I'd like to do a lot more shooting in the future and stuff like that. And I love working with veteran nonprofit organizations and stuff that I respect and appreciate, this being one of them. Obviously, Torn Warriors, shout out. 22 Kill is another good program that I think is really good. And I think for the transition assistance that the things you can do, like leaving the military, one of the biggest things that's most important is getting in touch with your own community. And sometimes I think that's taken for granted.
So have you done work with 22 Kill?
Yeah, I actually got to go to their program called Camp Valhalla, and I was a part of the first females that group that went, and I met like some of my best friends now, and it's amazing because everybody has different experiences and stuff, but when you connect into your, our own community, it's this really interesting support connection that you feel. Right.
So that goes into, sorry to cut you off, but that's our thing, right, with social interaction and inclusivity, right, in the community that, for me, from Workplace Obsession, that we're trying to build. And I'm sorry, you were saying, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's fine. That's exactly what I'm talking about. It's amazing to be able to connect back. And so good organizations and good programs. I've been working a long time. So what I'm basically saying is, whether it's fighting or whether it's, research or business or whatever, or sharing resources. I love sharing resources, like good nonprofits and stuff. Whatever it is, I'm just kind of going with the flow, and seeing what works. I also, so that was one of the programs that worked really well for me. And then there's another program called Camp Southern Ground. And that's Zach Brown's camp out of Georgia. And it's an incredible transition program too. I met some amazing women and men there, and same thing. So yeah, it's nice to be able to have those opportunities, and I encourage people to take them, even if you think you don't need them or whatnot. It's interesting to be able to be a part, instead of isolating. That's where things kind of start to fall off, I think, so yeah, there's that. And I'm really thankful because I have some really cool brands that I represent, and that support me.
The mic is yours. If you want to talk about your sponsors, give them a shout out and hit up a little bit on what their mission is, and how you got linked up with those companies.
Yeah, for sure. That's a really cool question. So the first one I want to mention is Drake Associates.
Drake, like the rapper? No, probably not. Okay.
Far from, but Drake Associates, they make precision rifles, and
nice.
They sponsored me and my girlfriend, Courtney. She's my sniper partner, starting out for the Mammoth Sniper Challenge in January. And so that was a super cool experience for us, just learning. We're new, but it's super fun, and it's really cool. And they made a way for us to do that with their weapons and their support. So I'm really thankful for them, and I'm excited to keep learning and keep developing in that sense. And then also I have Competitive Body Development, CBD. It's a CBD company that I've literally, like the thing with CBD is, it's hot right now. Like everyone's talking about it and its benefits, especially military and veterans. I talk to a lot of people about it who swear by it, and certain things are for some people, other things are for others. So I encourage people to explore what those are. Like the same thing we were talking about with trying gyms out, you know what I mean? Explore that. But CBD, Competitive Body Development, is, I actually got hooked up through Anthony Rumble Johnson, who's like one of my good friends. And he and his partner and a couple other people have really developed an amazing CBD company that, the thing is with CBD, if it's not quality, and it's hard to find out if it's quality because they don't have that certification yet, then it's not like you're not getting the highest quality, you're not getting what you need to. And what's great about this company is it's I've seen their operation, it's the highest quality, it's done right. Those people are day in, day out, like they make sure everything's perfect in the United States. And I think that it helps a lot of people in our community with pain and things like lubricating your joints and things like that.
No, I actually hear about it more often in the Jiu Jitsu community, especially in the Masters 3. Shout out to all the Masters 3s out there, us old folks. that use it. So pretty interesting, and I've heard a lot of good feedback. People that literally swear by and say, yeah, CBD in whatever form factor, and it works. So shout out to them. I have no sponsors, so I'm available. Have Anthony Rumble Johnson give me a shout out, give me a call.
Yeah, he's a big supporter of veterans and military.
Awesome. Tell him try to call him.
For sure. I'll FaceTime him right now. Hey, what's up, bro?
So all right, what else you got there?
Okay, so there's that, and then also Paid to Raid, which is a veteran.
Oh, Paid to
Raid. Yeah, it's a veteran-owned and operated company, and
nice.
And it's nice. They have nice gear. They give me gear, and and for me, it's close to it feels being a part of the community, and I really enjoy that. And I like supporting other veteran-owned and operated businesses. I believe in women veteran entrepreneurship in general, women and men, and so it's cool to be able to network with people in our community and to support one another. I got to do some diving with Force Blue, which is a really cool organization too, saving the coral reef. All these things are important, and I think veterans are can really be a great change for the future. And if we connect and if we start to work together and not recreate the wheel, but bring remember you were talking about earlier with the identifying an asset and letting that do its thing. It's beautiful, and I think that our community has the potential to do that in really great ways. Yeah,
no, and it's funny because it really slides. It really goes directly into what I was just saying, right? Of course goes back to the brain always wins. We talk about process, right? I can't hammer that home enough. And exactly what you just talked about. You talked about physical activity. Whether it was diving, whether it was shooting, whether it was mixed martial arts, whether it's Jiu Jitsu, and then we talked about social interaction and that sense of community. You're with people that are like-minded, have shared experiences, and you bond over these things. The area where I have the most trouble, I think, is optimal nutrition, because I like to eat cookies and snacks. So that is my challenge area. But I do trust the process. But that is my challenge area. But
that is totally my challenge area too. I have a sweet tooth. And shout out to George Lockhart and Leith, some of my best friends. They worked with me at the Marine Corps Martial Arts Center of Excellence when I worked there, and they're incredible. They do most of the weight cuts for the UFC. Fighters and stuff, and he's got great nutrition programs. And stuff, so.
I just like cookies. That
I
is
do
my.
too. I have such a sweet tooth.
So you just reminded me of something, and I'm glad you reminded me of it. So, about Justin Timberlake.
Okay.
How did that? So for those of you that don't know, Kelsey's going to talk about it here, but. So Kelsey, correct me if I'm wrong here, took Justin Timberlake or went with Justin Timberlake to the Marine Corps ball. Something to that effect.
Took him. I took him. I like that word.
So there you go. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that a little bit and how did that all go down?
All right. So basically, I was studying for Sergeant's Board. It's like a promotional thing, and I had done all my my military stuff, and you have to know current events too. That's something that's required. You got to be kind of well-rounded, and so I had 2 civilian roommates at the time, 2 girls. And I broke out the wine and I said, hey, can you guys update me on what's going on? Let's talk news, So we were doing that, and one of my girlfriends brought up an interview with Justin and Mila for their movie Friends with Benefits. Okay. And the reporter or interviewer, this is what got me into communications, my interest in communications and my master's degree of public relations and things like that, is because this was a very interesting whole thing that unfolded. So basically the interviewer asked Mila, had you seen this video of this Sergeant Moore in Afghanistan asking you to go to the Marine Corps ball? And she said no. So they were he was talking about it, and Justin got involved and was talking to the camera, and he was like, don't worry about it. We're going to get her to go to the Marine Corps ball. And she was kind of what do you mean? Are you going to go? And he was like, no, they don't want me. They want you, and do this for your country. And I'm pretty sure she's from Russia. Yeah. And so I was like, he's from Tennessee. And, I guess it's just I saw an opportunity where I was like, look, if you want to tell someone else to man up, then, you got
So were you a big Justin Timberlake fan, or was it just kind of
not at all. Not at all. I mean, I did love his, he's super funny, and I actually became a huge fan afterwards. Yeah, after I met him. But yeah, I didn't. I wasn't like in sync. Like that's why I had to get the guys to get me in the back because I didn't want to do like a selfie video. I was like, dude, that would be creepy status, you know?
That's interesting. Right? And that was the reason I was trying to figure out, okay, were you like this big super fan that was like, oh, I'm going to die?
No. Okay.
I
just really wanted to call. I mean, can you cuss on your podcast?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool. Because I've been really professional.
No, you can say it. Nope.
Okay, so I was like, look, like I'm gonna call you out on your shit. You know what I mean? Like you wanna encourage someone like that to go, and they kind of were just trying to merge on through that question. And he was enthusiastic. He must have known about the Marine Corps ball. Yeah. And you know what was really cool is that he was super respectful. We had a great time, and I think he really enjoyed himself. And
that's good.
He wrote this really, he had this. He either wrote or had this really interesting, great blog that he wrote after, and it was a really good engagement between military and service people and the civilian community. You know what I mean? Which I love, good connection like that. It's to me, law enforcement, military, first responders, and veterans are a great demographic. I mean, you know, there's a lot in that, and I think it's a good connection with our communities and with our people. You know.
Yeah, no, that is essentially my target audience. The only thing I would add into that collective group is I like to also reach out to victims of domestic terrorism, because we know that that's a real thing in this day and age as well. And sometimes I like to say no one should have to suffer in silence. That's a big one. And
wow. And
sometimes we have people that survived domestic terrorism, and they kind of get lost because they're just quote unquote regular people who were just doing whatever they were doing on a Sunday, you know, and they were just at the wrong place at the wrong time, unfortunately, and that just kind of goes, you know. Yeah. So I like to reach out to those guys as well. I haven't been able to do anything successfully with that particular population, but we do consider them and care for them as well. So that's awesome.
And I think that's very important. Just like you know, like where I'm at in South Florida, I'm not far from Parkland. Yeah. You know, and I had actually went to the campus post that event, and I talked to both academic people and I talked to both the law enforcement, and you know, it's just a really interesting thing when you can to connect with our communities, and it's really important. I think it helps us all become more aware and more of what culture and community really means. You know?
Well, thank you for your time. I mean, I really appreciate it. I'm pretty excited that we had the opportunity to sit down and talk. We got to hang out for a couple days. And not just the two of us. I mean, the entire group of people that are here, some great people, people that I eventually would love to get on to talk a little bit as well. And it was just a really great experience out here at Torn Tactical here in Nevada. So
make sure to follow them on social media.
Absolutely.
And support what they're doing, because it's really cool.
Yeah, we'll have all the information in the show notes. We'll also have some information in our tags there, guys. So as I've said probably too many times for you guys, Workplay Obsession on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat. I even have a TikTok. I don't really know how to use it, but I have it. I think I made like one video on there or something. I think it's pretty cool. I have to figure it out. Yeah, I'm on there too. I think it says Snapchat. Workplay Obsession. Yeah. So what about you? Is your handle like public, or do you like to?
Everything, all my social media is at Kelsey Desantis. I actually am more active on Instagram, but I'm starting to get back into Twitter and Facebook and YouTube, and stuff like this is what I enjoy. I really do enjoy doing and being a part of intelligent conversations and good community.
Intelligent conversation. Nope, she's not. She's done here. She's gonna find someone else. So, but I'm going to throw this kind of open invitation out. I'd really love to have the opportunity to, if you take that next step and you're going to get back in the cage again, and it's like, hey, I know you might be focused on training, but I'd love to follow your train up. I think that would be awesome. Yeah. And kind of talk about that, and because I'd love to look at the mental side of it too. Your mental preparation. Yeah. Is there anything? And I know I'm extending this now because we're wrapping up. But is there anything that you've seen specifically throughout your training that has really helped you with the mental edge, or from a cognitive performance kind of perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. Mental toughness is something that you have to really pay attention to and kind of look for. And it's it's really interesting to watch people be extremely elegantly soft and compassionate, but then also fiercely self-defensive and amazingly focused on, you know, it doesn't matter if they get hit or their face is busted open and bleeding or they're missing a limb or they're, you know, it's like the no quit mentality. It's something that's hard to define, and when you can tap into it, it's really, really interesting to me. And I think it takes a lot of controlled discipline and focus, and I admire it.
Yeah.
And so it comes in all different forms with different people, you know, and it's really interesting to watch people that are dedicated and focused and also compassionate inspire me.
Nice.
Yeah.
So guys, we're going to wrap up here because I know we're going to be moving on to the next event here out at the site. So hit me up if you have any questions. I already went through all the sites. This is where I would insert my shout outs to my sponsors. However, they don't exist right now. So I have time. I have time for you.
I'm going to sponsor you.
You know, I'm not begging for sponsors, but I'm saying we have the opportunity to help you get some advertisement out there. No, I joke, although all good jokes contain truth.
Yeah,
so,
DM for sponsors. What's up?
But I am joking. So big shout out to everyone who competed at the DC Open last week. Actually, what's today? Today's... so it was last week, last Sunday. Shout out to everyone who competed out there. And then I know there's a fight to win coming up here soon in Philly. So another big shout out to everybody who's prepping for that event. I don't know what's the next big IBJJF event or Grappling Industries either. But once I hear about it, I'll make sure I push it out to you guys. Unless you have anything else.
No, this is a pleasure. I totally enjoyed it. Thank you for having me. You guys keep training. Keep focusing.
Yes.
And don't give up. Never give up.
Yeah. So guys, thank you for tuning in. Until next time, keep grinding.